Well, my goodness, guys, we should have been all together in our lovely offices down in central London. And we made such a difficult decision a couple of weeks ago that we should move this event today to a bit virtual platform. It was really guided by the feel of the group, and there'll be some people amongst you that'll be really disappointed that we're not together, and others that are quite relieved, partly because of your own safety, but also because of all of the demands that you're responding to and your clinical practice currently. So it was a difficult decision to make. We would have absolutely loved to have been in a room together today to celebrate everything that you've achieved. But we have got quite good over this last 18 months at making these events particularly special. And there are some added bonuses, which I won't tell you about just yet, that we can include because we are virtual. So I'm sure that you will have a wonderful afternoon celebrating this past 6 months where you've been working with us to develop your leadership, your potential, consider your aspirations, and really think about your future. So we've got a good group of the Fnf team here to join you today to again join in your celebration. So let me introduce you to everyone that's here. You all know me. I'm Gemma, Director of Academy. Lucy, you met right at the beginning of the programme.
Lovely to see you all. I'm so excited to be celebrating with you this afternoon. Well done, all of you.
And Jackie.
Hi, you all know me because I'm the one that fills your inboxes with loads of emails. So it's lovely to see you all.
Thanks, Jackie. And Jess.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Fellow early career nurse. Congratulations.
And Adam.
Hi, I'm the Alumni Manager. If you don't know me already, you soon will. Speak to you later.
Thanks, Adam. And Jo.
Hi there, I'm Jo, and I work in the marketing and comms team, and I'm going to be tweeting about this event with a hashtag FNF Early Careers, so do look out for it.
Lovely, thanks, Jo. And our newest member of our team, Gabby.
Hi everyone, I'm an Academy Administrator. I just started working here on Monday, so nice to see you all.
Lovely. And the biggest reason, well, everybody wants to be here to see you, but genuinely this is the moments that fill our hearts with joy when we get the chance to really celebrate your success. So these days are the point where we see the impact and really start to learn the difference that these programs make. So as many members of our team always want to be part of it, and that's part of the joy of it being virtual, that we can be here. But we also have a special guest here with us, and another joy of virtual is that we've been able to invite a special guest all the way from Glasgow. So welcome, Craig.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm incredibly flattered and honoured to be here with you all, and have a little bit of imposter syndrome, so I'm sure that will settle in a minute. And you may be joined by my little dog, Dobby, who does not like to be ignored.
Well, welcome to Craig and Dobby. And also Albus, Jess's dog, might make an appearance as well. So all welcome, and anybody else's. We're very happy to have extra guests here today. But I will do a proper introduction to Craig in just a little while, but just so you've got a bit of awareness of who's in your audience, Craig is himself an early career nurse and is going to talk to you a little bit about his journey and some of the roles that he's undertaken to extend that influence and impact, which is something that we really want you to use this programme as a springboard to achieve as well. So Craig says about imposter syndrome and being here, but actually he's here as an inspiration to every single one of us. So really welcome, Craig. So I'm just going to share my screen with you for just a moment and offer you a few words of reflection, really, to start us off thinking for today. And these words of reflection are based on, well, they're based, if I'm honest, on many years of supporting students in their transition into being a newly registered nurse. Also some research that I've done over the years, but also grounded in my own experiences of that transition, which, despite the fact that I'm going to give away my age a bit now, despite the fact that it was over 20 years ago, the messages and the experiences that I hear still resonate with those experiences that I had myself. So So just a few kind of thoughts really to set us off before we hear from you guys about the work that you've been doing. So you might know Florence has some really key words of wisdom, and this is a quote that I often hear in various different forums that I present in that reflects on some messages that Florence encourages us to think about. So one of those is to never lose an opportunity for urging a practical beginning, however small, for it is wonderful how often in such matters the mustard seed germinates and roots itself. And we really want you to think about this programme as that practical beginning. So what we hope is that we've planted some seeds with you in terms of how you perceive yourself and the potential you have as an early career nurse and where this will take you moving forward. For many of you, the quality improvement projects you've undertaken as part of this programme are those practical beginnings. And we really want to support you to think about how you can embed, to spread, to sustain, and to also disseminate, tell others about the work that you've been doing so that it can start to have that wider impact and others can learn from your insights and your innovation. So some quotes now from me that will be less profound than Florence, I'm sure, and I don't think 200 years later people will be quoting me to the same sense, but these are some thoughts to offer you. What we hope we've done as part of this programme is to illustrate to you the power of your network. So this network that you've developed as a cohort of early career nurses is a tight network that we hope you will draw upon continuously now throughout your career. You guys have been through such a unique experience in your transition to being a registered nurse and midwife. There will be no other generations of nurses that will have experienced the demands and the chaos, I guess is the best word to describe it, that you guys have. And so this network that you've created now is something that we hope will enable you to really empower and continue to support each other moving forwards. But we also want to encourage you to think about that wider network now and using the Florence Nightingale Foundation and the alumni community that you will be joining to access those people that feel a million miles away from you, that actually are only at the end of an email. And we really want to encourage you to reach out to us to make those introductions or to approach those people yourselves. One of the things that Jess and Craig are really expert at is using the power of social media to look at that massive network and bring it much closer. And before you know it, people that maybe you perceived as a distance from you become somebody that you can reach out to as a source of support and advice. So we want you to be really intentional now about your networking. And networks for me are not about who you know. They are about reciprocal relationships. So for many, many years, the networks that I built were all around how I could support and serve others within the work and the agenda that they were taking forward that I agreed with and I wanted to be part of. Years later, it starts to come a point where you draw on those networks to ask for support yourself. So when I'm looking for mentors for the scholars that we're recruiting at the moment, I can draw on that big wide network because for all of these years you've invested in developing those relationships, and those people then are very generous in return. So don't think about networking as something that is a superficial act of who you know or the people that follow you on Twitter. Think about it about how you can create meaningful relationships that will help you support and further the agenda of others so that you can then reap the benefits of that moving forwards. Another thought for you is around mentorship. So there are different ways that we gather support as we go through our careers. And at times it might be that we're looking for a coach. We need somebody to hold a mirror up to us, to ask us some critical questions, to help us to see things from a different perspective and to understand the resources that we have within ourselves to solve those problems. But there are points in our career, and I would suggest to you that this is potentially one of them, where a mentor can really be somebody that has opportunities, insights, and knowledge that isn't available to you yet because of the stage that you're at in your career. So these are people that can see things that you're not able to see, that have got connections that you haven't yet built, that can open those doors and really offer that supportive and continuing development opportunity to you. It's so important, I think, at times where we're feeling the demands of our role, that we can identify people that we aspire to be like. We'll never be the same as them. We don't want to be the same as them, but we can see people that have navigated through the challenges and that we really respect the way that they have maintained their values and their commitment to the profession. And I still have several mentors actually that I reach out to and offer mentorship as well to others. And we do have to be careful not to confuse it with that mentorship you received as a student, whereas that was about your assessment and it was about moving forwards and progressing through your career. Your mentorship in terms of your professional role is far more about that professional development. And I'm sure that Craig will be happy to share with you some of his experiences. I know he has a fantastic mentor currently. The other thing really to remind you about is that we at the Florence Nightingale Foundation, as you know, really focus on leadership in terms of the influence that you can have within the particular role that you hold. It has no relevance in terms of the professional hierarchical position. And the most significant element of developing your leadership is to invest in your self-awareness and your emotional intelligence. These are the greatest attributes to you as a leader, no matter what stage you're at in your career. So just a real encouragement to seek out that feedback from those that you trust and to give yourself time, space, and protection of that opportunity to reflect and really, really consider continuously how you are developing and growing in the next steps that you want to make. And you will have heard me mention this phrase right at the beginning of the programme, but really understanding your unique approach, like a snowflake, your unique approach to leadership. There's only one version of you as a leader. You have a unique leadership signature. And we really hope the programme has helped you to start to define that leadership signature. What are those internal motivations, the values, the philosophy that really underpins your approach to influencing and leading others? And how can you start to really develop and hone that approach as you progress through the next few years? Really thinking about holding close to you what those values and motivations are, because at times when it feels like the demands are so significant and time is a resource that you don't have, we often need to reflect back on those values and motivations to remind ourselves why we are driven to do the roles that we do and why we're seeking the influence that we are. And a final thought is around balance. I know that the majority of you are here because you go over and above, and just the quality and the nature of the projects that each and every one of you has undertaken as part of this programme tells me that despite the challenges you have been experiencing and the demands on practice, that you have still innovated and you have still found that enthusiasm and commitment. But it's really important that we find that balance, because we have to maintain our energy levels and we have to pay attention to our well-being. So think about the areas of your life that enable you to recharge your batteries and be purposeful and intentional about protecting time to do those things. We need that energy to be the best possible nurses we can be, but also the best parents, the best sisters, brothers, partners. All of those things are so important to us. And at times where you might be starting to doubt your resilience because those demands really do take their toll on us, just remind yourself that you are human. And if you need to reach out for some support, if we need to give a message to others around us that actually the nature of the work and the impact that it's having on you is negative at that time, that we have permission to do that, and we seek that support, and we recognise that there isn't going to be a negative consequence as a result of that. I think one thing the pandemic has done for us is enabled the world to see the importance of our well-being, and that is key to maintaining our workforce and also the safety of our care. So there's not that stigma around this that there used to be, and we need to make sure that we have those kinds of conversations and we look out for each other and encourage each other to have them as well. So this is a long path. We hope that you'll see this leadership journey that you've embarked on with us at the Fnf as start of a long journey within nursing that could go off on all different tangents, and every single challenge that you encounter, role that you undertake, additional responsibility, relationship that you build is all part of that learning journey. It will teach you something. So keep your eye on that long-term destination, even if it's currently challenging. Always be thinking about yourself as learning and developing along the way. And try to keep looking up. Try not to get your head down too much. Try not to let the weight of the crisis that we're working within pull you down so that you're focused on one day to another. Really try and keep your head held high. Look at the opportunities that are available to you. Think about what's a different direction, what's a different tangent that you may not have considered. And just remember always, with your nursing and midwifery qualification, you have so many choices. There is so many options for where this career can take you. So you should never feel like there isn't the opportunity to take that next step forward. So that's some thoughts, some reflections from me. And I'd like now to ask my colleague Jackie to share her screen, and we'll take us into the programme for the day.
Can I just say Greta has joined us. Did you want to say a few words, Greta?
Hi, Greta.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't come in straight away. Can you hear me, by the way? Am I not on mute? No, phew. It's the usual trick. Yeah, no, I'm sorry I wasn't there at the start. I always want to say hi at the beginning of the welcome days and hi at the end of the celebration days. I was listening to Gemma during her presentation, and I couldn't have said it any better. I think you are at the start of something new. You are at the start of a journey that is yours for the taking, and everybody, all your colleagues, all the Florence Nightingale Foundation, us as the executive team, all the team that support the FNF, we're all here to support you. Our door is always open for you. Now you've become part of the FNF family. This is where you are. Jess is testament to that. She started on the programme and she's now part of the team, albeit only for 2 years, but we'll sort that out. So this is the beginning of what's to come. You are already incredible, which is why you've got to this point. And I didn't know whether I would be able to come on this call, but I wondered if I could read something to you. And it's particularly poignant at this point because I think it's really important to reflect on your journeys as a nurse or a midwife to date, and what were your inspirations to get to that point? Who drove you? What were the drivers to get you? So were there people, were there external drivers to get you to the point where you are now? And my inspiration, I've had many, but one of my inspirations is my mother. And unfortunately, it's her funeral tomorrow. And I've been writing her eulogy with my sister. And my mother, I mean, it's incredible what you learn about your parents when you write a eulogy. And hopefully none of you will need to do that. Or if you have done it, you'll get so much sense of contentment out of it. But you learn so much about writing a eulogy. I dug deep into the stuff that I knew about her, but also I didn't know about her. And my total inspiration for becoming a nurse was her. And what I didn't know was that she already had 2 children when she joined. It was called the National Health reserve service in the British Red Cross. She already had 2 babies. She joined for 7 years as a volunteer. She used to rock up at the local maternity hospital every week. I think it was on a Tuesday evening. I don't know how she got there, or I vaguely remember having to be bundled in the car in our pajamas, presumably to bring her home. But anyway, but the thing that inspired me about her was her drive to be even better all the time. She was at home, busy home, having the children. She had us. She was a great mum. But this uniform she wore, my God, that was the thing that I wanted. And I dug deep in a drawer and I found some, she kept all the little lapels and the badges and her little certificates that she gained over those years. And I wrote about that in the eulogy, actually. She was my inspiration, and she's still been my inspiration. She'll inspire us and her grandchildren for years to come. But the other thing I think you need to know, and I moved from my mother to Steve Jobs. There is absolutely no connection whatsoever, apart from he was a genius and so was my mum. And he said, when he addressed a university congregation in 2005, he'd been at Apple he'd been obviously the co-founder of Apple. Then they hoiked him out. He went to work somewhere else, and then he came back again. And when he came back, unfortunately, he was diagnosed with cancer and his fear about dying. And he said this to the students. He said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." So I want you to go, yeah, all of those people that say you can't do it, of course you can do it. Your inner voice is telling you what you already know. You know you're brilliant, and we want to follow your career. If you allow us to, over the rest of your career, we want to know what happens to you. We want to see some of you potentially as CNOs of the UK. Some of you might not want to do that job, but all of you have the potential to do that. You might think that's taking you away from patient care. It definitely is not. Those jobs are absolutely directing patient care. So it's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jackie, for noticing I was on the call. Pleasure, really a great pleasure. And I'm going to stay on with having you on in the background just so I can hear what you're saying. But everybody knows I sometimes say the phrase, "It makes my heart sing." And I think listening to you this afternoon will literally make my heart sing. I need a bit of that at the moment. So thank you for having me on. Thank you, Jackie, for realising I was there. And Gemma, thank you for coordinating this session. Bye-bye. I'm not bye-bye. I'll turn my camera off. How about that?
Okay, thank you. Oh, it's an absolute joy to have Greta here. We weren't expecting Greta because she has such a challenging day ahead of her tomorrow. So I guess when I said to you that Team Fnf really want to be here to celebrate with you, it's completely true, we do. So we're going to move now into our programme for the afternoon, and the bit that we're all really excited to hear is from those of you whose presentations have been selected to present today. And Joe and Claire, who are our panel that review all of the different submissions, they have both reached out to me on several occasions to say, what I needed to tell you all is that the standard of this cohort was like nothing they've ever seen before. They've even decided they need to rewrite the criteria because everybody got full marks. So they had a real difficult time selecting the 4 presentations. And so what we've selected today is about a breadth of different interests. It's an insight into some of the things that have been achieved. But actually, for the whole cohort, we really do need to commend you on this fantastic work that you have undertaken, and where you have really translated everything you've learned on the programme into something that is tangible and makes a difference to the people that are using the services you're part of. So we're going to hear from 4 of your group today, but every single one of you has the potential to develop these projects further, and we would love to support you to do that. And particularly for those of you at a stage of thinking about how you might want to write this work up and share it with others, we would be really, really keen to support you to do that. So the message is you're all fantastic, and this is a snapshot of that moving forwards. So we're going to hear from 4 of you. First up is Harriet. We've got your slides, Harriet.
Hi.
Okay, whenever you're ready, if you let Jackie know when you want to move the slides along, and it's over to you.
Can I go first? Okay. So hi, I'm Harriet. I'm a registered general nurse, and I work in the community at the district nursing team for Dorset Healthcare. Next slide. Thank you. So prior to taking part in the Florence Nightingale Foundation programme, my idea for a quality improvement project was kind of undefined. It wasn't, but I held ideas for change. But through taking part in the Florence Nightingale Foundation programme, I was able to define and ration out the need for change. My initial idea was adapted when I started to ask why. Why was this happening or not happening, and continue to ask why, using the root cause analysis. This raised underlying issues such as miscommunication, lack of understanding, limited resources, time restraints, inappropriate patient referrals, continuity of information being mislaid. As much as the service requirements were identified in our patient documentation, the feedback regarding the documentation was not positive. Patients found it quite overwhelming, and the presentation was identified as tatty at times. This led to my quality improvement project, the review of patient-specific documentation to ensure the district nursing packs met everyone's requirements, patients and nursing needs. Once my project was identified, I then implemented change using the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, where using the PDSA cycle, I acknowledged the importance of using SMART objectives to ensure that the project was achievable in a timely manner. Next slide, please. The implementation of change was initially met with some resistance from my colleagues and peers and quite a lot of questioning. However, through using techniques acquired from the Florence Nightingale Foundation Early Careers Leadership Programme, I was able to demonstrate presence and impact while adapting my communication methods to communicate effectively, to empower my colleagues to engage with the project and implement change. Next slide, please. Sorry. Through establishing sort of good working relationships, it sort of enabled good, strong foundations for the project with my colleagues. It enabled us to work as a team. We were able to collate our ideas together to ensure that the district nursing packs contained relevant information and would be presented in a professional manner to reflect the quality of care being delivered. The packs were tried and tested with patients and nursing feedback, with further adaptations made. The district nursing packs are now sort of being implemented and have received positive feedback from both staff and service users. Next slide, please. And thank you very much. Is there any questions? Sorry.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Harriet. That was excellent. We give you a very challenging brief to describe your project in 5 minutes. So well done. Lots of rounds of applause I can see on the camera there. So some questions for Harriet. If you want to either wave at me or pop your Zoom hands up, then either is absolutely fine. Lucy, shall I go to you first of all? Do you have a question for Harriet?
Yeah, thank you. Harriet, great presentation, and really great to see that the journey has really impacted on your practice. How do you think you're going to take this forward through your nursing journey? What's next for you, do you think?
So sort of from my initial project idea, having asked why an awful lot, with it, I've come across other areas that kind of need to be worked on and other adaptations need to be sort of implemented. So my plan is to work sort of with the team and with my line manager to make further changes.
Great, good. Well done. It's great. It's great. So I'd love to hear how you get on as well. So keeping in touch would be brilliant. Well done. You should be really proud.
Thanks, Lucy. Other questions? Jess, did you have a question for Harriet?
Sorry, I took a while to find the unmute button there. Harriet, great work. My question for you is, you mentioned about getting some resistance from colleagues in practice. How did you overcome that? And do you have any tips for the rest of the group?
So it was through sharing knowledge and sharing the knowledge of why it was so important, you know, to, I suppose, sort of empowering them to understand why the changes need to be made. And through sharing that knowledge and getting that in-depth understanding, they were a lot more sort of understanding and happy to engage with the project once they had that understanding. But initially, when it was proposed, it was very much sort of like, yeah, a lot of negativity towards it. But now, I think it's a lot of positive feedback. So yeah, sort of I'm hoping that everyone is still fully engaged.
No, well done for persisting, because I know that can be really difficult at the best of times, and especially as a early career nurse as well, getting those people to listen, and I guess having allies as well in the workplace helps.
Thank you so much, Harriet. You've got us off to a wonderful start. I know it's difficult being the first one up, but that is an excellent, and I really love that you were able to use the skills that you drew from the programme to enable you to influence and make this change. And I'm, as Lucy said, really looking forward to seeing where this develops, and wherever we can support you to take it to that next level, we would be really pleased to. Well done. Thank you, Harriet.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. Let's move on now to our next presenter. So next up we have Darren. Hi there, Darren. Darren just jumped into action there, I think. I think might be having a bit.
There we go.
There we go. There's mute.
I'm not a technology person.
Well, Darren, if you want us to manage, we can manage your slides. So all you need to do is embody your RADA version of you and do the presentation.
Talk, I can do.
You can do that. Over to you.
I can do that. So I'm ready when you are. So principally, my change started before I even became a nurse. I was on the emergency department, and as a student, I'd be like, Harriet, I said, why? Why don't we do this? Why are our maternity patients not being assessed the way they should be? We've all heard of the News score. Many of us will have heard of the Pew score for paediatrics, but very few of us are aware that there's actually a maternity scale as well. Using the maternity score means that we're predicting patient outcomes better, and what we wanted to do was reintroduce something that already existed to improve those patient outcomes. We called it Project Pussycat because we wanted people to talk. We wanted this to be something that stuck in people's minds, and quite intentionally, all of my slides today, all of our posters that we've produced are red and yellow because the maternity score looks at scoring red and yellow boxes. And what we really wanted to do was introduce a long-term change, something that was going to last for hopefully years. And on our next slide, what you'll see is a copy of the poster that we used in our triage areas around the department, and we kept it deliberately simple. We wanted to say who this change was for, who was going to make this change, why we were doing it, and what we actually wanted people to do. This was very simple for all of our maternity patients. This was going to be a triage-led process which replaced the News score, where we scored red and yellow boxes. And it was as simple as that. Our next slide looks at the PDSA cycle that we went through. We went through the maternity patients prior to the change being introduced to look at how often the chart was being made, so that we got some idea of our baseline. We then had a special week in the department dedicated to launching Project Pussycat. And that was what we got people to talk about, the fact that it had got a funny name. Some of you may well have also noticed that it's got a hashtag as well, because all over our department social media, that is the hashtag we used, hashtag Project Pussycat, so that all the information you could then look back and find. After we'd introduced the change for a week, we looked at the data to see whether that change had stuck. And we wanted to assess to see whether different changes needed to be made or whether it was something that we could roll out further. On our next slide, you can see the data that we collected. The red section at the beginning is where our baseline data was. The yellow section is the chart usage during the actual change process. And then the green section highlights the post-change data. So did our change stick? No, it didn't. But we can see that the change is starting to improve towards the end of that, which says to me, yes, we've made a difference, but we need to tweak the idea to make this change stick better. And on our next slide, what we can see is sort of going forward the leadership qualities to this. We found that it was really difficult to change a behaviour that was so deeply ingrained into a very large department. And I've got a horrible feeling Amazon's just about to deliver my parcel. He is. That's right, I can multitask, I'm good at this. And what we also looked at is the need for good communication and flexibility within a very large team. It was really important to have lots of different people involved in that. Thank you very much, you're very kind. Have a lovely day, all right. Thank you. And finally, what we wanted to look at was, can one person change the world? No, they can't. But one person can start to change the world. And on our final slide, what I wanted to really touch on was something that Gemma's already touched on with us at the moment, is that idea of networking. Meredith Belbin developed what she called team roles. And within any sort of network, a change needs plants, people that come up with ideas, completer implementers, people that focus on the fine details, that really hammer out all the nitty-gritty. And you need people like resource investigators to really drive home that networking and spread the message. So for us, being a leader is good, but it's about having a network of people that also work with you to help drive that change home. And that's me and my Amazon parcel.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Darren. That was fantastic. And the ultimate in multitasking there. You see, you couldn't have done that if you were in London, could you? There's a bonus.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so I know this is a particular area of interest that Greta has around early warning and deteriorating patients. I wonder, Greta, if you've got any comments or questions for Darren. She's just trying to find mute.
Oh, is she? I was gonna step in.
No, she's there. I can see. We'll come back to Greta. I think she's struggling to find mute. Lucy, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, just some comments, really. First of all, many congratulations on the Amazon delivery. I think that's the first for us. So I thought we should go and mention that, but well done. That was very professional. You've obviously got a future in public speaking, if nothing else. But the PDSA cycle, really nice to see that you used the PDSA cycle for your project and kind of building on what you've learned through the QI. So that was really great. But what I really wanted to touch on, you talked about, and I really admire it, you recognised that, no, it didn't have a massive impact. And you talked about how you were going to tweak that. What have you recognised the next stages you need to do to really embed that change and make sure people use that really important early warning schools?
So I think the biggest take home for me is that this is a project which is very big and it needs multiple people to be involved. We need someone who's going to lead the project generally, but we also need representatives within the different parts of the department. So medical team, our doctors, for example, people who are going to lead from our qualified nurses, people who lead our healthcare assistants. So we want to build a network of leaders to expand the project so that it creates more visibility, essentially.
And do you feel confident with the course that you would go on to lead that change, lead that project working across the NDT?
Absolutely. I'm pleased to say that I'm looking at working with one of the consultants to roll out within the department and also onto our acute medical unit as well.
Fantastic. And is that a bit of a leading question, but do you think that's something you would have felt confident to do before you'd been on the programme?
No, I don't think so. It was one of those things that started when I was a student saying, oh, why don't we do that? But I don't think I really saw myself as being the person that changed anything. I found the problem. I just wasn't sure what the solution was.
So it's about being a change agent and working together, because like you said, you can't change it on your own, but as part of that wider team, you can really have an impact and influence. It's fantastic, Darren. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Lucy. Craig, I wondered if you've got any comments, reflections on Darren's project.
Yeah, I thank you so much. And to Harriet before, it's so interesting to see the work that you're doing with the Academy. Really interesting, and I echo what Lucy said there, to acknowledge that sometimes when we implement new projects, they don't always have the rip-roaring success that we would like. And I think to be able to acknowledge that and learn from that it's truly great. One of the models of change I always really find interesting is Cotter's model, and that you create that sense of like urgency for your change. So I'm interested, when you put that in, is how did you try and create that sort of urgency within your team that this was something that would be beneficial to the department and to the maternity patients that you were discussing?
I think that's probably where our project lacked a little bit of impact. For example, I think if we'd created more urgency, I think it may well have stuck better. What we focused on was the fact that people are very resistant to a change which involves paperwork. Yeah. They don't like having to fill in lots of new forms or doing extra work. And we wanted to really focus on the idea that this isn't extra work. We're not doing anything extra. We're just writing it down in a different place. And we really wanted to use that as the catalyst to try and drive the change. The fact that you're not doing extra work, we're just doing it differently. Had we created more urgency around patient outcomes, yeah, I think that's something that would have made the change stick a little bit better, and it's something we'd look to do in the future.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Great question. And I think you can really hear from Darren's responses the learning that has occurred as part of implementing this, which is the whole point of the QI projects. It's really about applying that learning and understanding where we could do things differently if we were to attempt it again in the future. I know that Greta's just popped back up there. Greta, did you have a comment?
Gemma, you know me too well. Really well done. I really enjoyed that, and I'm sorry I couldn't get back on. I had to come out of Google and then come back in. Google completely jammed up. Anyway, what I wanted. So I'm right in thinking you're at St Richard's in Chichester, yeah?
That's correct.
Brilliant. So Darren, is Marianne still your chief exec?
Yes, she is. Although she is stepping down in June.
She's leaving in June.
Yeah.
Oh, she's quite incredible. No wonder you're so amazing at quality improvement, that you are almost the world gurus in Western Sussex. Darren, I was just wondering if you met Marianne in the lift and she's got 6 months to go and you wanted to tell her about this project, what would you say to her? What would you want her to remember about this project?
I would want her to remember the name, and I'd want her to remember why we're doing it. We have a very memorable name, and that's quite deliberate. We want it to be something that catches on. And I wanted to remember it because it's patient outcome driven. We care about patients, we care about getting that early intervention for a very particular group that I think gets lost. And that's what I would want her to remember the project for.
And what would you ask her to help you with next? What would be the thing that would make it even better?
I would ask her to help me network with the maternity services who unfortunately haven't been able to be part of this project. And because it's mostly their patients, I think their input would be really, really good. I think it would be useful. And I think it's something that we could use going forward to make the project better. Again, it's about creating that extra network.
Oh, brilliant, Darren. It sounds like an interview now, but does she know about this project?
I don't believe she does, no. Oh. It's something that we trialled on a small basis in our department.
Okay.
With a view to expanding it further if it was successful.
I suspect those that know me know what I'm going to ask next. And that is, Darren, I would like you by the second week in January to go and see Marianne and tell her about this project.
Deal.
Fabulous. There we are. That's the start of your very large network about to happen. She should know about this. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greta. So by order of Professor Greta Westwood, CBE, Darren, there's your homework. Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was so excellent. We really, really took such a lot from your presentation there. And I think the honesty and authenticity that you presented it with was really inspirational to us all. Thank you, Darren. So let's move on to our next presenter. So we have Elizabeth up next. So let me spot Elizabeth on my screen. There you go. Oh, is it Ellie?
Ellie, Elizabeth.
There we go. Okay, whenever you're ready, Ellie, over to you.
So hi everyone, it's really nice to see you all again. And I guess I'll just jump straight in.
Go for it.
So my project centered around improving fluid balance monitoring on a pediatric surgical ward. Next slide, please. I thought I'd share a little bit about myself just to give the presentation a little bit of context. So I'm a children's nurse. I trained in Bristol and I qualified in September 2019. And I've been working on the intensive care unit since then. For the past 6 months-ish, I've been on the paediatric surgical ward on secondment, doing some management experience there. Next slide, please. So I mention this because that secondment started at the same time which this course started. And I was really fortunate in that they agreed to support me through this. So as I wasn't familiar to the ward and its problems and the inner workings of the ward, I chose to go directly to their senior nursing team for ideas for a quality improvement project. I thought I'd make my life easy for myself. They're the experts in the area. They know what needed improvement and what would be beneficial to the ward. So I decided to collaborate with them on what improvements they wanted to see. So we worked together and came up with fluid balance monitoring. So over the past few months, there had been a couple of patient safety incidents where children had deteriorated from inadequate fluid balance monitoring and ended up in HDU or PICU as a result. And really, fluid balance monitoring is nursing 101. We need to document fluid balance monitoring to ensure they're hydrated. Otherwise, it can lead to cardiovascular compromise and deterioration. There's lots of evidence to say fluid balance monitoring works. It's a really easy way to monitor your patient's fluid status. So it's definitely a worthwhile issue. Next slide, please. So we began by collecting some baseline data. We developed an audit tool to check if our fluid balance monitoring charts were being completed correctly. We collected this data every shift throughout August, and this provided our baseline. I then took this data and we turned it into some charts, and we sent these to our senior nursing team and the rest of the nursing team on the surgical ward. So the main take-homes from that audit were that only 28.5% of our charts documented what our patient's fluid balance should be, which is not ideal. It showed we definitely needed improvement in this area. Next slide, please. So I again met with the senior nursing team and we decided on the following changes. We had a little brainstorm together, and step one is that we were going to provide some targeted teaching for our lovely new starters. So we offered them a one-to-one teaching session as part of their kind of, within the first 2 weeks, they get some protected teaching time, and we delivered this session then. We also added our audit results to our daily safety brief just to make people aware that we've done this audit, these were the results, and to serve as a reminder to complete their charts. And we've added a section to our e-handover, which is a little space where you should document the patient's target fluid balance, and you should do that once a shift. So we were very aware that none of these changes are particularly groundbreaking or innovative, but they are crucially very achievable and realistic, particularly the adding the target fluid balance to e-handover. It's a very quick change. It takes less than a sentence, less than a minute to work out what your patient's fluid target should be. Yeah, we've implemented these changes over the month of October. Next slide, please. Thank you. So originally the plan was to re-audit throughout November to see if there were any changes, if these changes resulted in improvement, but due to staffing and high acuity, that's not quite been possible, unfortunately, yet. But it is something we plan to do over the next few weeks or within the next month. Though we've not been able to see an improvement, we've had some really good feedback from the newly qualified nurses and the education team actually about the teaching session we delivered. And in terms of leadership learning and the challenges, I think for me, integrating into a new team and then coming in with all these quality improvement ideas wouldn't have worked. I very much wanted to come in and collaborate with them, given that I didn't really know the team. I really had to develop my relationships with them. And yeah, no, they've been really, really receptive actually. And yeah, no, they've been good. I think sustaining momentum's also been quite difficult, and I'm sure, like all your teams, you're probably very short-staffed at the moment. The hospitals are really, really busy. So I found I definitely had to take ownership of the project to keep it moving. Otherwise, it probably would have just been forgotten about. I found that reiterating that we're doing this for patient safety and patient outcomes really helped. Yeah, and hopefully over a few months we will be able to measure that this has like actually made a real change and a sustained improvement in our fluid balance monitoring. So thank you. Any questions?
Wonderful, brilliant. Thank you so much, Hle. Gosh, Florence would be proud if she was listening to you right now. You've really shown how data can help you to position yourself as having authority to make a change. And I think starting from that baseline, which really demonstrates there's an imperative that this change needs to be addressed, is where we get that buy-in and that momentum. So really, really well done. I wonder if anybody's got any questions, any comments, reflections on what you've heard. Jess, over to you.
Thanks, Gemma. Ellie, it's great project, and I'm sure when you have the opportunity to look at the data again, you'll see even more progress. So well done. My question to you is in regards to, you were talking about keeping the momentum going with your project and having to take ownership. Was there like a moment when you realised, hang on, if I don't do this, this is not going to keep going, or was that just something you did the whole way through?
Was there a moment? I think in terms of collecting the data, I definitely had to be the one to, I mean, I don't work 24 hours a day for a month. So in terms of collecting the data, I had to keep asking people to please find 5 minutes to collect the data. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to measure. We're not going to be able to get a baseline. So asking people really nicely and keep sending emails to try and get people to collect the data whilst I wasn't in was quite a challenge, but people did eventually do it. Yeah. So.
No, well done, because from personal experience as well, it can be tricky, can't it? Just keeping it going. But good job at keeping people, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Not committed to it, but invested in the project as a whole. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jess. I think you're right. There's something about you keeping that energy and that momentum behind the change, isn't there, to bring people along with you. Thank you. Lucy.
Thank you. I couldn't resist asking, so I don't ask questions to everyone, but I was once a paediatric intensive care nurse too, so I think that's about to comment. And I wondered if you thought about, you said you're going to come back to it and keep measuring and keep that momentum going, but actually if you look at the, because obviously being, as you said, being hemodynamically unstable is actually obviously an admission criteria for PICU. And you're thinking, if you looked at actually if the admission rates to PICU have been affected by this project, making sure you're monitoring fluid balance more effectively. And if not, perhaps it's something I'm happy to catch up outside of this.
No, that's a really good idea. That's something else we could measure, isn't it? To see if it's actually affects the amount of the rates of deterioration, and if it does prevent PICU admission. That's something I'd consider.
Yeah, no, it's a really good measure, and actually, I guess, and then when you've got this really great data to share, then actually sharing it more broadly, your project could impact quite more broadly than the hospital you're working at. So yeah, it's good, and it is. And you said it. I know it's not very exciting. I think it's very exciting, but maybe that's because I've got a similar background. But it's vital. It's vital. Fluid management is a vital component of nursing care, isn't it? It's a fundamental. So well done. Really, really great project. Really great project.
Thank you, Lucy. No, I think you're completely right. There's that the fundamentals, aren't there, that cross all fields of practice, and we're all taught that as part of our pre-reg training, that fluid balance is such an important and integral aspect. It was quite a shocking statistic that you gave there, Ellie, that's not something that's been routinely assessed. So when you described your changes as, not innovation, I think probably what we're saying is it shouldn't be innovation, but actually in this context it was, and it wasn't being done. So really brilliant work, and well done for identifying those areas that was so essential to address. And as you said, into a new team as well, which adds a lot of challenge to that change agent role. So really well done. Congratulations, Ellie. So our final presenter this afternoon is Patricia. We find Patricia. There she is.
Hello.
Hello, Patricia. Whenever you're ready, over to you.
Okay, I think we can start. So my name is Patricia, work in cardiac intensive care unit in Bristol since February, so it's kind of new. And my quality improvement project is around delirium, and it's called Delirium Matters. Just before I started, I want to give a special thanks to all the CICU team, because they were really supportive and giving me always advice, but we'll talk that through after. So next slide. I just wanted to start how this project started. So I'm quite new to ITU. I just started in February, and I needed something to start a quality improvement project, but something that already already had experience before. So I was on the Stroke Rehabilitation Award, and I know delirium is quite a hot topic nowadays. A lot of research starting to appear. So it's quite prevalent in ITU, is a common complication post-cardiac surgery, and of course increases the costs and mortality. So it's prevention, and the way the nurses manage this topic is quite essential and relevant to CICU. So I thought it was a good topic, but actually I gathered some verbal feedback from people that are much more senior than me, and they've been on ITU before, and they know this time of the pandemic if it was okay to start this project. So what they told me is that they think there was not much confidence taking care after these patients because of the lack of education. So I started a teaching program to empower staff to do, to improve patients' outcomes. So my aim was to improve the knowledge and confidence of nursing staff over 1 year, because I acknowledge that on ITU at any time we can start via COVID award, for example. So for me it was good to have a longer time, and it's called Delirium Matters. So next slide, you can see the way I start to measure was for an online survey, because we have high number of nurses every shift and it's hard to complete it and have the availability. So I did a survey with a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree, because I think it's better to analyze around the team which level we are of understanding of each different areas. So for example, the causes, interventions that we can do. I also included an open question, which they could share experience with delirious patients and any idea for next steps. And you can see on your right side that it asks, do you consider that the team will benefit from more education? So 88.9% of the people that answered, which was 36, said that it will be a good project. And I think as leaders, we should consider if the team is engaging it and if they think it's a good idea. So the next step, next slide, you can see the methodology that I follow. So my first problem was building relationships at first. Remind yourselves that I'm quite new to ITU. I just started in February. So the team they expressed many concerns around the motivation at the time, and that it was a complex team that no one ever started to do anything. So I went to share my concerns with staff champions, because I know they have a positive influence on the team and they can change their minds. So they were happy to support me, as well as the safeguarding lead nurses of the unit. Then I started my baseline measure, which they were reminded of safety briefings to complete it, and by email and on our Facebook group. And the first step of this project was to complete a teaching board, which had the topics that were identified as needed on the first survey. There was a short survey that I then used the same questions than before, and a PDF presentation was developed, because there are a lot of new starters in CICU. A lot of senior staff are going away, and these new starters didn't participate on the first survey. So the practice educator team leader, which I tried to engage on my project, suggested in the next month that it will be presented on the foundation days to the new starters. So next, I want just to chat to you about the impact. On the next slide, please. So the impact, you can see the teaching board on your right, I think so. So a shorter survey was done, as I told you, the same areas, same questions that I used on the first, and also a question to identify how many people participate on the first one and how many people is the first time they are completing it. So until now I have 20 answers, and there is 10% of improvement on each subject actually, which I was quite surprised. And the verbal feedback I've been gathering is that the team is now engaging actively, and it raised awareness, although it's not my aim. It kind of raised awareness for the need to have more time to teach about delirium. The nursing staff considered it was truly informative and remarkable. And as you can see on near the board, you can see some oral feedback they gave. So it was a useful tool to refer back to. It's a good start to the project, because no one ever go around this team. So it was good to gather some feedback, but the data is still being collected at the moment. And last but not least, on the next slide. So my leadership learning, I think the main thing is building relationships prior to any change. and kind of identified which people on the team have a positive impact on the others, so they can really help us to have a more successful project. And then the other thing that I found a real powerful skill, and personally my next steps is to improve that, is the ability to identify the type of personality of each team member and the best way to communicate with them. So I think personally I want to develop that, my conflict resolution skills too, and investing more in my leadership development. And around this project, my next steps will be doing some trolley teaching on the unit. So see which teams they want to go along, which they think they need more education. Then the PDF presentation will be presented by me to the new starters on the foundation days. And the delirium guideline, which was already started but not completed, I'm going to complete the guideline and share with the general intensive care. And also something quite recent. So I share the project with the chief nurse, and she was happy to me to go present on delirium and falls meeting, because the trust wants to improve the care delivered to delirious patients. So I think it was really nice to see, when I started, I was kind of new, no one was trusting my ideas, but then how the things went on. So that was my journey until now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patricia. Really excellent.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Some questions for Patricia. Questions open to everyone. Craig? So you popped there. Craig just jumped into action there, I spotted.
Such a great project, Patricia. Many congratulations. I was just wondering, as someone who was relatively new to your team and to your area, you talked about building those relationships. And again, clearly I'm a bit of a Cotters fan. That is like building your guiding coalition you had for your project. What did you find the most challenging part of that, being someone that was new to the team, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think first of all, when you are new to the team on ITU, everyone treats you like you don't know certain things, and they treat you like you don't know anything. And because I'm quite young, I thought it was going to be really hard. So my main thing was to identify people that I was already get along a little bit, and I could see everyone on the team would like them, and they would bright the team. So I started, I don't know, sending a message to one, then the other one said, oh, go talk with the other one. So I went to talk with the other one until they trust me and I could share my ideas. And then the matron was really enthusiastic about the course and with everything. So I think it was little steps that I had to take, a message there, an email there, go to chat them while I saw them at work. And I think it helped after a while.
I think such great skills to learn, because I'm an early career nurse myself, 2.5 years now, and coming into a new team, particularly if you're like buzzing with ideas and things you want to do, it is difficult to make change, particularly when you're an early career nurse and people don't necessarily think that I think it's important as an early career nurse, you can have loads of ideas and past transferable skills, but you've got to earn that respect of certain team members who have got years and years of nursing experience, and that can be a very difficult tightrope to walk. So well done.
And because of the layout of ITU, I always said that throughout the course, because we have our patient there and we can't leave them to go to another bed to have a chat. That was a challenge to build relationships if you are stuck on one bed.
Absolutely. And we've got to remember this is all being implemented in the context of COVID as well. So, a real credit to you, Patricia.
Thank you.
And when we made that comment at the beginning about self-awareness and emotional intelligence being such key aspects of your leadership attributes, you discussed and demonstrated that beautifully in response to Craig there. Any other questions, comments, reflections? I think Lucy's hanging on because she doesn't want to ask another one, but absolutely fine, Lucy, you go for it.
Oh, happy to. I know you want to. But just Patricia, an absolutely fantastic project and so important. And a real credit to your leadership. Really, you've managed to see this through, and it's great to see that you're going to keep investing in your leadership development. So well done, you. Well done.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. And really excellent presentation. Slides were really fantastic. Engaging. Thank you so much. Really well done. And thank you for being our final presenter.
Well done.
Okay, so we're moving now on to our special guest this afternoon, Craig Davidson. And Craig and I met, oh gosh, I don't even know how long it is now, Craig, but via the power of social media.
Twitter.
It was. And that's when I'm saying about networks. Craig and Jess and Claire, their friend and colleague, is absolute masters at this. But Craig is joining us, as he said, as an early career nurse, working at the moment for the Asylum Health Bridging Team as a senior nurse in Glasgow. Craig is, I think if there is such a thing, but a social media influencer for nursing, I think if there is one, you are it. So not only does he have a massive following on Twitter and uses that following to reach out, to question, to challenge, to create debate, he does it in a way that is so professional that he engages and he gets people talking and thinking and not feeling offensive. Who's this, Jess? We got a wave there from someone feeling defensive about what can be some quite controversial topics. So if you are looking for somebody to follow, Craig is your man. The other thing that Craig does, which is an absolutely phenomenal project with his friend and colleague Claire, is a podcast which is called Retaining the Passion. It's got a 5-star rating on Apple. It is absolutely phenomenal. And again, really moves into topics that are sensitive, challenging, so relevant and pertinent to us as nurses, not just early career, across the whole span. And Craig's various different accomplishments have been recognised in his achievement as a Scholar of the Health Leadership Academy, and he also has some significant roles chairing the Nursing Now Challenge European Hub, and is also still an active member of the newly registered Nursing Forum for the RCN. So for me, it's an absolute privilege to have Craig here to talk to you today about his experience of transitioning from a student to an early career nurse with all of the ambitions to have influence and impact that you guys hold. So I'm going to hand you over now to Craig.
Thank you so much, Gemma. That was a bit of a this is your life moment. Very, very flattered to hear. And I just wanted to say I'm hugely grateful to be invited today, to Harriet, Darren, Ellie and Patricia, hearing you talk about your QI projects. Quality improvement and policy is my big bag, which I will come on to talk about. So to see all the work that you're doing, hugely impressive. Makes me wish I lived in the southeast of England and could have applied to join the programme. I'm hugely impressed. And I think the work the Florence Nightingale Foundation is doing across all of the nursing profession and midwifery profession at the moment is outstanding, and you should all be so proud of yourself. You're really leading the way in the leadership of nursing, I feel, in ways that some other organisations and institutions could maybe reflect upon and be acting in similar ways. So congratulations to all of you. I'm just going to try and share my slides, because I did say, I'll be honest, I sent the slides across, and then as I was listening, I was like, oh, and added little bits in. So that's why I'm now sharing my slides, and then I will talk, I'll send them on later so that you can share them. So just a little bit about me. I was asked to come along today to talk about my experience of influencing as an early career nurse. And yeah, so I graduated in, well, I actually still haven't graduated because of COVID, but I completed my course in July 2020. We'll move slide. So before that though, I came into nursing as a second career. So like Rita said at the start, my inspiration was my mum. My mum is a registered nurse and registered midwife and worked as a neonatal intensive care nurse for many, many years. So when I was little, me and my siblings used to go up to the hospital with her to see the children, particularly at Christmas time. So have very fond memories of that. So nursing was always a really big part of my life and something I was really actively interested in. When I was at school, however, I was encouraged, because I was quite academic, to go into medicine. Nobody ever encouraged a career into nursing for me, which I think speaks a lot to the gendered identity of our profession. So I was going to study medicine, got into study medicine, but believe it or not, I used to be quite shy. So I went to stage school in the evenings to build confidence, and absolutely fell in love with it. Friends started to get into drama school down in London, got itchy feet and that. So I ran away to London for, I call it my club 18 to 30. So I lived there for 12 years, gained lots of skills which are uniquely transferable to nursing. I would say I have very good interpersonal and communication skills because of that. Learning to improvise and think fast on your feet has definitely developed my problem solving skills. And yeah, you get used to building teams very, very quickly. You would be thrown in a cast and everyone would be getting changed backstage in their pants. So you very quickly breaks down all those personal boundaries, which helps when you meet new teams really quickly. So I also, in between jobs as an actor, because they are few and far between acting jobs, I used to work in a call center as a supervisor and a duty manager in customer care, so had some experience of leading and managing in those jobs. But I came back to Scotland in 2015, based on I had quite negative effects on my mental health. I was actually an inpatient because I had an episode of psychosis, which is something I speak quite openly about, and I think if people want to be private, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I quite like healthcare practitioners discussing openly and breaking down that stigma. And in fact, me and my friend Claire recently had a podcast episode on that. So my experience of nursing care when I was there has shaped who I am as a nurse. And I did train as a registered adult nurse, but it gave me a much more holistic view of nursing care and really made me want to encompass mental health into everything we do, because they are not disparate elements. They cannot be separated. So, but because I was older and my qualifications were all out of date, I couldn't go to uni straight away. So I studied an HNC in care and administrative practice at college. And very luckily that then meant I could apply to articulate direct to university. So went to university and did an honours degree in nursing. I started in the middle of the COVID pandemic in an infectious diseases ward and worked there for a year. And then at the time, I'm really interested in social justice and working with disadvantaged populations, equality, diversity and inclusion. And yeah, so I applied, well, first of all, I shadowed the complex needs and asylum team in Glasgow because apparently I wasn't doing enough working during the pandemic. I asked if I could go and shadow them during my annual leave. Wouldn't always suggest that. Having a work-life balance, I would definitely advocate for, but I wasn't following my own advice at the time, but it was amazing and I really got to know the team. So when a job then came up, I applied there. So I started there this May, and beyond my expectations, a senior nurse position came up in July, and hugely grateful to have been given that position because I had been there for such a short space of time. But I think my passion for QI, which I know you all love as well, otherwise you wouldn't be on this project, I think really helped set me up for that position. So that's just a wee bit about me. But when Gemma was talking, every nurse and midwife is a leader. You do not need to be in a formal leadership or management position to be a leader. Even if we reflect and look in the code, you lead by your values and who you are as a person. Your leadership as a nurse is you being that example for any student nurse or midwife you are working alongside, but also your peers and nurses that have been nursing for a long time may be absolutely over enamored by who you are as a person and your leadership style. So we all have it in us to lead, and we all lead by our own personal values, which takes me on to my next bit. Find what you are passionate about. So there are so many things in the world that are wrong, if we're honest, not to put a gloom on it, but there are lots of things that we all want to change in this world. And in healthcare, there's lots of things we all need to improve. But if you try and tackle everything, it can be hugely overwhelming. You want to hide under a duvet and never get out. So find the things that really influence that you can't get out of bed in the morning without thinking about, things that you know that you can change, because if you're really committed and have that buy-in yourself, you're going to want to make a difference. So for me, they are to create a socially just healthcare system that's got equity of access and treatment for all people. And that really stems from my passion and interest in equality, diversity and inclusion. A lot of that comes from, I was a closeted teenager who grew up in Glasgow and experienced quite a bit of internalized homophobia when I was younger. That laterally went on to influence my mental health. And again, that's something I quite openly talk about now, but I don't want anyone else to ever feel how I felt. So that is why I'm so passionate about that. Also very passionate about leadership and management and global and public health policy. And if you follow me on social media, you will see I'm also quite politically engaged and very interested in politics, but particularly how we as healthcare practitioners can influence politics. So all this sort of came together in a project that I was first involved in as a student nurse. So we did an interdisciplinary module and we had to do a QI project. So my QI project was, at that time in Scotland, we did not, I'm just going to shut the door because you can probably hear Dobby barking. At that point, we didn't have a Pride badge or a rainbow badge in Scotland. There was the NHS rainbow badge in England, but we didn't have that there. So I passionately believe in allyship, and that wearing the badge, the evidence that they had down in England was that if someone didn't feel comfortable discussing their sexuality or gender identity, then that was, by someone wearing the badge, showing that they were an ally, it showed that they were a safe person to talk to. So that was something I really, really wanted to suggest that we implemented in Scotland. So this was a fake QI project we had to do for part of our module assessment. And I was like, okay, so this is what I want to do, create an NHS Scotland one. Me being me, tweeted quite a lot about it. And one, little did I know, this was actually underway in Scotland, and there was a working group involved, and the chair of the working group reached out to me on social media and asked me to be involved. Now, I was huge imposter syndrome there, because when I first started joining those working group meetings, it was all heads of equality, diversity and inclusion from the Scottish government, from NHS Scotland and all the different trust boards. So I was a bit like, yeah, so I did this in an assessment at uni, but it was so great to be involved. And one of the things that I really passionately thought we should include and improve upon for the from the English badge was to include the chevrons for our transgender patients and colleagues, but also for those from ethnic minority populations, because evidence suggests that those who have intersectional minority groups, so from ethnic, I'm multitasking, keeping a dog down. So see, boys can multitask. You proved that already, Darren. So I really wanted to show that, felt that we needed to step it up a bit and include that intersectionality. And believe it or not, I was hugely grateful. They really took me up on that and ran with it. So when our badge came out, it was like this. So this was launched by the Scottish Government this June. We now all can apply to be allies. You take a pledge to wear this badge, and this is something that's now out. So to be part of that huge change in NHS Scotland really early on in my career really spurred me on. And I think it goes to show things that you are passionate about. Like I said, if you can't stop thinking about them when you get out of bed in the morning, there's something that keeps you driving, find what it is that keeps you passionate and going. So that was just a wee lived example that I've experienced. So Gemma was talking about the podcast. So me and one of my best friends and Jess's best friends, Claire Manley, we were on the Royal College of Nursing Students Committee together. I was the chair at the time and Claire was the trade union representative. And at that time, we were taking on the mantle of the leads for the it was called the Newly Qualified Nurses Network then. Subsequently, the name has changed to the Newly Registered Nurses Network, because protect the title. We are very proud of being registered nurses. So a part of that project, Claire and I wanted to do a podcast. Initially was to come through the RCM, but we thought, no, because anything like that works at a bit of a glacial pace to get anything done. And we wanted ownership of the project so that we didn't have someone editing it and telling us who we could have on as guests, what we could talk about. So we really wanted to shine a light on critical issues that were affecting not only the nursing profession, but also society as a whole. And like Gemma's alluded to, we cover a huge range of topics. It can be clinical specialities, it can be equality, diversity and inclusion, mental health, experiences of practitioners. What Claire and I particularly love on our podcast is when we can get people with lived experience on, or service users, patients, family members, and it really gives a richness to what we want to do. But the reason we wanted to create it, as we all know, there is a huge problem with retention in nursing. And I'm sure we've all experienced it as when we were students and as early career nurses, those who are further on in the profession who are like, oh, why are you coming into this profession? Oh, nursing's awful. And yes, we all have days where nursing or midwifery, I can't speak from that experience, not being a midwife, but I'm sure you have it in midwifery also, where days are hard. But we wanted to keep that passion alive. We never wanted to become the sort of people who were like, why are we nurses? So that's kind of how that came about. And the name came from that, retaining the passion. And Journeys Through Nursing, the podcast will eventually follow Claire and I for however long we decide to do. We're currently on season 3, but we have been hugely grateful with it. So we have won or been nominated for several awards, which is, considering Claire and I started the podcast during the pandemic in our bedrooms, recording via Zoom. I had to teach myself how to edit. So these are some of the challenges I had to overcome. But then how do you build an audience? How do you sell your brand? Like, as nurses, that wasn't something we've ever really encountered or had to do. So it was about building those networks that Gemma was talking about, and building a followership, as it were. And we have gone on, and we are hugely grateful with how well it is doing, and I'd love to have some of you on talking about all your projects. So we'll do a QI episodes, and I'll be reaching out, because like Gemma alluded to, once I find people in networks, I don't let go very easily. And hugely flattered. We had Gemma on as a guest, and we've also had Jess on as a guest as well. Jess and I have been friends for a very long time. Jess was my vice chair on the Students' Committee. She then subsequently took over and absolutely bossed it as the chair of the Royal College of Nursing during the pandemic year. So, whoop whoop. So, speaking of the Royal College of Nursing, so when I was a student, I was the Scottish rep on there, and then became the chair, as I've talked about. But again, my passions are what drove me there. So the year I was chair, we did a massive student conference on equality, diversity and inclusion, and invited a panel that we had to talk about their lived experiences. And it was such a great session. But again, just that, be driven by what really excites you. I then, because I didn't want to stop, I then applied to be in the steering committee for the Nurses in Management and Leadership Forum. Was hugely grateful that they took a chance on me, because at that time I was, in fact, when I first joined it, I was still a student nurse. I wasn't even early career at that moment, but they had seen that inner leader within me from my time with the Students' Committee. But also I think it goes to highlight what I said at the start, that we are all leaders, and you're leaders by walking the walk and talking the talk. But it is about you. True leaders, you could cut through them like a slice of rock and they would have leader written through them. It is intrinsically who you are as a value. So I was hugely grateful to be taken on there. And then leading in equality, diversity and inclusion was a work stream that I introduced to that committee and have been working on with them. And yeah, have loved my time with the Royal College of Nursing, have always been very active since I was a student, and is going through some interesting times. You do more change from within. So yes. Then have gone on to, as Gemma spoke, with the Nursing Now Challenge. It was formerly the Nightingale Challenge, but has become the Nursing Now Challenge, and hugely overawed to be the European hub co-chair with Floriana Pinto from Italy. And what's so exciting about that is it is a global challenge. It's about global nursing and midwifery and how we can challenge the status quo and promote leadership for early nurses, early career nurses and midwives. We are the future. We are the change. We are the leaders, not of tomorrow. We are the leaders of now. And it really is about celebrating that. Challenges of that is very hard to get people together from all of Europe for any meetings, and we're all on different time zones. Everyone is incredibly busy. It is a particularly hard time to start anything new because already immensely busy workloads have been made even busier due to COVID, and face-to-face meetings sadly aren't as possible as they were. But I think that's why technology it is great to be with you all on Zoom today, because it's really shown how great technology can be to link us all, and we've had to create really innovative ways to get in touch. So yeah, that is amazing, and I've loved being part of that. And through that, I'll come on to speak very briefly about it at the end, but I met Aisha Holloway, who is now agreed to be my mentor. So going to be working with her in the new year. So very excited about that. And Gemma alluded to me being an Hle Scholar. Now, this is a challenge. I love it because it's very different to what I'm used to before. Any leadership thing I've done before has been very, very nursing. Well, not very, very nursing based. It's been nursing based because I am a nurse, and it's been with nursing associations. This sells itself as being about interdisciplinary, multi-team learning for all professions. It's very medic-centric, which as a nurse is interesting. It's very nice to actually have my views and opinions listened to, but when you have one profession that's very dominant over another, it can sometimes be hard to make your voice heard. So I think staying true to yourself, being authentic, and not trying to please other people all the time are real key qualities that you need to have. But again, we're doing a QI project, so we all do a community project, and the one that I've chosen to do links in directly with my work role. So at the moment, I work for Glasgow City Health and Social Care Partnership. So it's a combination of working for the council, but also for NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. So my idea is that we will create some sort of icon logo that we can wear, that asylum seekers can identify as this is a logo to look out for, with the view to all websites on Glasgow City Council and on NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde as a pilot. They will see this logo, click on it, and it will take them to translated information in their native language, but also have narration for those who are not able to read or write. So that is the idea. Doing it as a pilot, it really does call on every networking skill I've got going, because I've now joined the HCP's Equality and Diversity group, having to pull and curry favour with graphic designers, with the tech teams. So it's a huge undertaking, and like we discussed with your project, Darren, it might not be something that I can get off the ground. It is a huge undertaking. I have aimed big, but shoot for the stars, and is it shoot for the moon and you might land among the stars? I think that's the saying. So we will see what happens, but yeah, it's really exciting to tie it with my own work. And I've got another mentor through that who is a doctor. So it is really interesting to hear alternate viewpoints. Particularly my team's completely nurse-led, so I don't work with any medics or any other professions at all in my role. We link in with local GPs, but we're a nurse-led team. So I used to love when I was on the wards talking to the junior doctors, the FY1s, also talking to the consultants as well, but I found it more fun to talk to the FY1s because we were at a similar stage in our career. So I have missed that. So that is interesting, but it presents a whole new challenge because I have gone from being someone who is a relatively big fish in the early career nursing world to a very small fish in this pond. So that has provided a different challenge. Again, I was very grateful. Gemma was one of the speakers that I had at the winter conference this year who agreed to speak. So very grateful. So find your networks like Gemma, and I'm sure all of the Academy will be very, knowing who they all are as people, will be so ready to help and support you through your whole nursing journey. Now, I'm sure you're part of the Florence family and they will all be there for life. So biggest challenges I've found as an early career nurse who's trying to influence and be a leader is time management. I know I've just listed a million things, but sometimes I do get very overwhelmed and want to put a blanket over my head and hide because I'm like, why have I agreed to do so many things? But if we link back to passion at the start, they all have a similar theme running through them. And I don't know if it's because I came into nursing later, but there's so much I want to do and improve now, and that's the fuel that keeps me going. However, as I'm getting further into my career, there are times now where I will say no. And there are times where I'm like, I have to think, what is this doing? How is this going to benefit me? And I know that can sound selfish, but I used to just say yes to everyone and be scared that you would let people down. But there is nothing shameful, and if COVID and the pandemic taught us anything, self-care is so important. Time with your friends, family, loved ones is so important. So time management, I'm not going to lie, has always been something I've struggled with purely because of the size of things I've taken on. So that's something. It's very hard as an early career nurse. If you are someone that's really passionate and driven for change, people that have been in the profession for a long time can sometimes perceive that as being cocky or overconfident. So it's learning to use that emotional intelligence that Gemma was talking about, how to approach different people in different ways, how to keep that enthusiasm, that passion, that energy, but not come across as cocky or overconfident, because you'll get a lot of people who are thinking, you've been in the profession for 5 minutes, what do you know? Wait till it's ground you down and you won't feel like this in 5 years' time. So it's about learning to play the game, really. And that is, I guess, one of the acting skills coming in, is learning how to play the game and who to be for different people. But don't be discouraged, because you are the leaders and changers of tomorrow. And you're not going to please everyone. If someone thinks you're cocky or overconfident, oh well, don't lose too much sleep over it. You know who you are as a person, which leads me into the next thing. Really stay true to you and be authentic, because like I've said, you aren't going to please everyone. But if you know that you are being true to yourself, that you can go to bed at the end of the day knowing, you know what, I am being me, I'm driven by my values and my passion. So yeah, always be authentic. And again, that leads into the danger of people pleasing, which links into learning it's okay to say no. Particularly when you're an early career nurse, you want to grasp every opportunity going. I know I did. And you want to please people, but you've got to preserve that self-care, and you've got to look after yourself, because yeah, you can get very tired and burnt out very early. And that's the last thing we want for people at the start of their career who are really passionate for change. And by the time this government lets us retire, we're all going to be about 80. So we need to be in there for the long haul. And learning to disagree professionally, I would say, and that is a big part about being authentic as well, particularly if you are on social media, but also face to face when we're talking about the being perceived cocky and overconfident. If you've got evidence and data to back up your ideas, along with a passion, I mean, you're onto a winner. So if you learn how to do that professional disagreement particularly important on social media. It can be very toxic, can be very divisive, but if you know how to disagree professionally and be able to critically argue and critically discuss, then they are real key skills to have, which leads into don't feed the trolls. You're not going to please everyone. And if there are people on social media that are just coming for you, I mean, Jess will know there have been times where I've suffered pylons from some people, which isn't nice. No one's going to love it, but there's always a mute button and there's always a block button, and you don't owe it to anyone to allow them to follow you. So keep yourself safe, particularly in a digital space, keep yourself safe. And people are a lot braver behind a keyboard than they ever would be to your face. So remember, it's not always real life. It's a very amplified version of life. And lastly, this comes to the podcast, top tips. We always end every episode with top tips. So for me, find mentors and career coaches. Don't need to be the same person. So moving on from the student relationship, having that mentoring relationship, really looking forward to speaking with Aisha. She wanted me to send a CV, discuss some of the things that I'm not so great at, which goes back to my challenges, my time management, my not being able to say no. She wants to know, right, what are the things you want to fix? And she can help me develop that. But then I've also got a mentor from when I did Sigma Nursing's leadership program, who's now actually become my career coach, Danny Collins, who is helping me to get to where I want to get in my career and gives that laser focus. So they can be two very different things, and I'd suggest finding them. And you don't ask, you don't get. Like, that is what I was always taught growing up. And I suppose, hands up in the air, I am a white cisgendered male and life is easier. I'm not suffer any, I acknowledge my privilege, and life isn't hard being a white man. So what I would say though is that the white man syndrome is that you will go for anything, even if you only tick 6 out of the 10 boxes, whereas statistically women will not go for things if they don't think they tick 9 or 10 of the 10 boxes. Think like a stupid white man. Go for it. What have you got to lose? So that's my advice as a stupid white man, is just act like a stupid white man and go for it, because you will never get what you don't go for, and you have nothing to lose. Big mantra of mine and Claire's from the podcast is find your people, find your support network. I always know I can go to Claire and Jess about anything, and they aren't afraid to pull me up if I'm out of order, and I will go to them to be pulled back into order. It's good to have those critical, honest friends you know you can go to. And that's something that I've picked up throughout my career, throughout my student nursing journey, is your people that you can always turn to and you know you've got. I'm come across as quite a outgoing, gregarious person, but I'm actually quite insular and like my own company, and I'm quite introverted. I always say that I'm an introverted extrovert. So it's good to have a small group of people that you know you can rely on. So find your people who will be there for you throughout. And something that I am very much continuing to try, and as a New Year's resolution of mine, is don't compare and compete with other people. The only person you should try and be better than is the person you were the day before. So if you can go to bed at night thinking, you know what, I was better than I was the day before, be in competition with yourself. That's the best person to be in competition with. Being in competition with others, yeah, it can spur us on. And don't get me wrong, there's people that I see in their careers, Jess, for example, working with Florence Nightingale Foundation, who I'm like, amazing job, and I'm hugely proud of her. And yeah, I'm inspired by that. So I think that is a great thing, to have that healthy level of competition, but don't let someone else's highlights reel define your behind the scenes, which we can absolutely do, particularly on social media. People are very guilty of, yes, I've got this. Yes, I'm amazing. Yes, this has happened. And while that's great, and we should absolutely celebrate nursing because we are quite humble and self-deprecating as a profession, it is important, I think, to also be human, be vulnerable, share your stories. It's why I talk about my troubles with my sexuality when I was growing up, my mental health troubles, because it makes you more human. The best leaders, I think, are human, or they're relatable. So yeah, but don't compare. your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Definitely something that I would say. And yes, that is me. Sorry, I've rabbited on at you all. I could talk for Scotland, but hugely, hugely honoured to be asked today and so excited to be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Wow, big, massive round of applause for Craig. Thank you so, so much. Gosh, Craig, you've given us so much to think about there. I think really the core of your journey and your story is around that premise of you are leaders now. As you said, this is not about leaders of the future or the rising stars. Here you are all of those things.
Yeah.
Oh, are you okay, Craig? You struggling to hear us?
Well, I've taken my headphones off for some reason. I don't know if I've gone into presenter mode.
Are you okay now?
Yes, I can hear.
Brilliant, brilliant. So what we're going to do now, guys, is to break you off into some small groups so you have some time to reflect on what you've heard from Craig and also to reflect together on the wider impact of the programme. We've just got one task for you whilst you're in your groups. We'd like you to come back with one word that reflects that journey for you, and we'll invite you to share that word with us when we're back in the larger group, and then we'll record it and edit it and send it on to you as a memento of your programme. So remember those words from Craig. You are leaders now. This is your time. What are we going to do? How are we going to maximise the impact and the influence of the programme that you've been through and make this really count for you? So you've got until 2:15, is that right? Yes, 2:45, so half an hour in your groups. I'm aware that we've been a long time on screen, so if you want to, as part of that half an hour together, just have a bit of a stretch, a walk around, grab a drink, that's absolutely fine, but we'll be back together as a large group at 2:45. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Craig.
Thank you. What are you up to, Trouble?
Oh, wow, that was amazing. Really amazing. Have we still got Craig? We've not lost him, have we?
Might be sorting Dobby out.
I know.
Just got a crazy dog. Other than that, I'm fine.
Really great. That was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
I always find those sort of things, like, I hope it was.
Oh, well done.
Sorted.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Welcome back, everyone, and sorry for our Zoom. We're calling it the Zoom hokey cokey. It's in, out, shaking all about. That's what we're going with now. So, but thank you for your patience and your understanding there. So we're moving now on to what we see as the whole reason we're here. It's to celebrate you and to really credit you with what you've achieved on this programme. I feel like we should have a human roll of honour and a doggy roll of honour because we've had so many guest appearances. I've spotted Daisy's, Harriet's, Jess's, we've had Dobby, Steph's there. I love it. It's keeping me very entertained this afternoon. So I'm going to hand you over to the fantastic Jess Sainsbury, who works with us as a research and policy assistant, leading on our work to support early career and student leadership and across a range of different work streams. And Jess is going to lead us through this really important part of this afternoon.
Oh my goodness, no pressure. Thanks, Gemma. I'm actually really excited to do this. So I was in the cohort before you guys, and thanks to COVID, we had our celebration in person, but I got a notification like a couple of days before to say you need to self-isolate, so I completely missed it. So I'm so pleased to be here with you all today and take part, so thanks for having me. So you've had some time to think about your one word, and I'm just going to go through the list, and I can't wait to hear what they all are. And we're hoping to do something fancy with this and be able to share it more widely if you're happy. And again, names are important, so please, if I don't say your name right, can you please correct me? And because that's just super important that we all know who we are. I know you know who you are. So without further ado and less of just rambling, the roll of honour for the Early Career Nurse and Midwife Leadership Programme. First up is Angelica.
Hiya. I've picked authenticity as my word.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And next up, we've got Bethany.
Hello. I've picked motivated.
Amazing. Thank you. And Daisy.
I've picked journey.
And Elizabeth. Or Ellie.
I picked empowering.
Thank you. And Harriet, over to you.
I picked inspirational.
And Jerubel?
I've picked transformational.
And Juliver?
Uplifting.
Amazing. Lara?
Inspirational.
Wonderful. And I believe Laura Young is not with us today, but I'm sure she'll share with you at some point what her word would be. And next up is Lindsay.
I'm going to break the norm and I'm going to go 2 words, and I wanted to have self-belief.
I love it. Thank you, Lindsay. And over to Patricia.
I picked up powerful.
I like it. Stephanie, over to you.
Eye-opening with a hyphen, so it's still one word.
Thank you. And Isla?
Ayla, hi. My word is perseverance, the importance of.
Thank you, Ayla. And Charlotte?
Proud. I forgot to
Proud.
mute.
Thanks, Charlotte. Next up is Darren.
My word is networking.
Fabulous. And Hannah, over to you. Have we got Hannah with us?
No, it doesn't look like we do.
No worries. Next up is Jemima.
Self-affirming.
Oh, I like it. Thanks, Jemima. And Jordan and Kendall are both unable to join us today. So I'm going to go to Laura.
Not sure Laura's with us, is she?
No problem. Lee, over to you.
I picked impactful.
I like it. And Monica, over to you.
My word is confidence.
Great. And last but not least, we've got Shuhana.
Wait, insightful.
Amazing. Oh, I loved it. That was great. Thank you so much, everyone. Gemma, I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you so much. Can I just, before we move on, just pause and give you a massive round of applause? Thank you so much. Let's mark this moment and really hear those words that you said for yourself, but also to each other. So the last part of our session is for us to tell you a bit about what's next. You are now part of our alumni community. We always describe this as hashtag Fnf forever. So once you are part of this network, what we want you to think of us as is a place that you can reach out to open doors, to connect with others, to be in a position to have a platform to take this influence to the next level at whatever point in your career that feels like the right time to do. So we aren't going anywhere, and we'll keep reaching out to you to support us with the work that we do in influencing in terms of policy, research and future programmes moving forwards as well. But to tell you the detail, I'm going to introduce you now to our main man in our alumni networking community, and that's Adam. And Adam is our alumni and membership manager.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you for that introduction, and thanks to Jess earlier. Also, thank you to Harriet, Darren, Ellie and Patricia for their wonderful QI presentations, and to Craig to tell us about his story, and of note, the NHS Scotland Pride badge, which was very close to my heart. Talking of badges, you should all be receiving your alumni badges soon. Some of you may have not, but watch the post, it will be coming. So I'm here to firstly congratulate you on completing your early careers wonderful course and becoming an Fnf alumni. You're now part of an ever-growing community, and now we have over 1,500 alumni. So what are the benefits? Well, I've just sent you an email, which you should have in your system, and this will outline some of these and includes a monthly alumni newsletter, which you will receive, and will show you all the upcoming events, especially webinars. You now can partake in these wonderful webinars that we run. And there'll be lots of opportunities as well, like on May the 11th next year, we'll be having our yearly Florence Nightingale commemoration service at Westminster Abbey. Fingers crossed it will all go ahead this year, and it's a day earlier for those of you observant, that you know her birthday is actually on the 12th, but there was a clash with the Archbishop, but yes, that's going ahead now. We also have what we call Star Alumni Series. So these are where we reach out to you for individual case studies to map your journey through this leadership program and to tell us a bit more about yourself. And it's an opportunity. So if you want to reach out to me, then let me know, and we'll include you in one of our upcoming newsletters, and it will go onto our website as well. Talking of the website, we're just having a bit of a rebrand, which is launching in the new year, and that'll be an opportunity for you to use our website as a special place for you to mentor, have discussions, and to share practices. We're also seeking volunteers that like to become mentors for our Fnf Academy membership and all their nurses and midwives, if you're interested in as well. We also have the Fnf Advisory Board, made up of our members, which identifies and prioritises key policy issues. And we have the Shared Governance Forum that contributes directly to them on policy consultation. As an alumni, you can personally have direct influence with calls to action. And NHS England do reach out for opportunities for you to contribute. So there we go, that's where we are. So welcome on board, and I'll be speaking to you very soon, I'm sure. Thank you. Back to Gemma.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adam. So you will receive lots of emails, invitations, information through Adam from the Florence Nightingale Foundation. There will often be calls to action. Do you want to be involved in this policy influencing forum? Would you like to be part of this media campaign that we're working on? All of these things are messages that we're sending to you, and we really do encourage you to follow through on those. Make this leadership program be the start of your journey as an influencer. And as Craig reminded us, we're not leaders of the future, we are leaders now. So we can help you step into that position of authority and start to have that influence from this moment moving forwards. You won't be surprised that we will want to hear your views on how you found the programme. So we will send out an email to you with the link to 2 questionnaires. There's one that's a leadership impact questionnaire, which helps us to collect data, and it shows us the difference that the programme has made to your perception of yourself as a leader. And if you give us permission, we'd like to continue to send you that questionnaire on a 6-monthly and yearly basis, so that we can follow your progress and really start to measure the impacts that these programmes make. And obviously, we also want to improve our programmes. We know that you've had a fantastic experience with us, and all of the words that you use tell us that this has been, for many of you, a transformational experience. But we want to continuously grow, just like you with your quality improvement projects. This is about continuous improvement for us. So we want to be always contemporary and always offering the absolute best experience. So we would really appreciate your critical feedback on our programme so that we can continue to improve. So remember, please, that you are now part of our Fnf family. Reach out to us when you're feeling like you need some support, some additional direction. You should never feel alone within the nursing profession. You are part of this Fnf network. And we want you to feel that we are there for you at whatever point in your career that we can be of most support. So it's bye for now, but we shall see you soon. And hopefully at the Westminster Abbey service, as Adam said, we'll be there to celebrate in person. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, everyone, and have a wonderful Christmas. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.